To tie this fly, we will need these fish skull microspines. The tail shank, 6mm and 8mm sizes. Take a tail section and place it securely in your vise. For thread, I like Vivis 6/0 as it is very strong. And since I'm tying the bluegill color, we will be starting with olive. Start your thread right behind the hook eye and snip or break off the waist. Now you can use whatever material you want for the tail, but I like chickaboo. I have this soft hackle with chickaboo pelt from whiting that I pull off 2 of the chickaboo feathers from. You could also get just a chickaboo pelt like this one from whiting that would work the same. I like to prepare these feathers by pulling off some of the fuzzies on both feathers. The feathers have a slight curve to them, so I align the tips of the 2 feathers together with the curves angling outward like so. Then I wet the feathers to keep them together and make it easier to tie in. Measure out the feather to about the length of the tail shank. Then transfer that measurement to your other hand and tie it in. Snip off the waist of the feather and then clean up that section with a few wraps. Now simply whip finish and snip off the waist. I like using this ultra thin UV resin from Solares. It has a handy brush to easily apply. Just brush some on the thread wraps covering all angles. I accidentally added too much here, so go sparingly when you do this. Then just cure it with your UV light when it is all coated with the resin. By the way, I have a video reviewing this light. I will link it in the description section. It's a great light that I've used extensively for over a year now, and it's not very expensive at all. Now we need 2 of the 6mm shanks. Secure the shank in your vise with the triangle section in the vise. Also make sure the open end of the shank is facing upward. Now use your fingernail to pull down the eye of the shank and insert your tail like so. For the rest of the fly, I will be using the white Vivis 6/0 thread. Start your thread somewhere midway of the shank, which will close off the shank. Bring back the thread as far as the shank will allow. Now for material on this fly, I use the Gamechanger chenille shown here. It comes in a long cord, much more than I have here, enough to tie about 10 or more of these flies. However, I like clipping the sections to about this long. After you get down to a short section of the material, it is unusable for the longer shanks or the head part of the fly, but save them as they are great for the smaller tail sections. Pull off a small amount of the material to expose the chenille cord, and this will make it easier to tie it in clean. Capture the cord and tie back rearward as far as you can. Then bring your thread up to the eye of the shank, but be careful when you reach the eye as the tag section of wire can be sharp and cut your thread. If you're using a short piece of chenille like me, use some hackle pliers to grab the tip of the cord, and then make tight, touching wraps with the chenille up the shank, stroking the fibers rearward with every wrap. Two wraps should be sufficient for these smaller sections. When you reach the hook eye, capture the chenille, trying to wrap as little of the fiber as possible. To do this, wiggle your thread through the material, and brush it out of the way when you need. Make 2 wraps with the thread over the material and then pull everything rearward, out of the way of the eye of the shank. Then wrap over the head with a couple more wraps. If you need, you can pinch the head like so to move it all rearward slightly, out of the eye of the shank. Then snip off the waist. Whip finish the head and snip off the waist. To keep everything in place, I add a little bit of the ultra thin resin to the head. Now do the same thing with the second 6mm shank, attaching the other 2 shanks to it. Make sure the tag end of the tail shank is facing downward. Now we will need 2 of the 8mm shanks. It's basically the same process as the 6mm shanks, just more wraps of the chenille. 4 to 5 wraps should be sufficient. Now we're on to the body. For a hook, I like these Gamechanger SL12S 1x short hooks. I like the shorter shank and the ultra sharp point. Put your hook securely in your vise. Then we will need to add a little bit of keel weight. I like putting some .010 size lead wire in a bobbin to help with winding it on. Make 8 to 10 wraps with the wire, break it off, and then twist it together like so. Push it down past the bend of the hook, right about there, and this will help keep the fly positioned upright when stripping. Then start your thread at the midpoint of the hook shank and wrap down over the lead wraps. Make multiple wraps to cover the lead like so. Once covered, put a little super glue over the lead bump there. Now we need to attach the tail. I like the Senyos thin intruder wire. It's 18-pound test, which is plenty strong enough for just the tail of this fly. Now if you're putting a tail hook on one of these, you might want to use a slightly stronger wire. Tie in the wire so the end is right at the hook eye. Make multiple tight wraps over it, leaving a small tag end at the back of the wire. Then double over this tag and tie that down also. This will ensure that the wire does not pull out. Now insert the wire through the tail's eye and pull it through. Tie down that section with just 3 wraps so there is a small space between the tail and the hook shank. You can adjust the wire to length by pulling on it, and you want this to be even with the hook shank, like so. Now tie down the wire to make a small loop at the back of the hook shank, but not too tight. You want the tail to move freely. Then wrap back up with tight wraps and double over the tag end and tie that down as well. Then use some wire cutters, I like these because they have a fine point, to cut the wire off, and then make multiple wraps over the wire body. I'll put a link to these wire cutters in the description section. End by the eye of the hook, and make just a few turn whip finish and cut off the thread. Now coat the body with super glue and set aside to dry. Now I like making multiple of these flies at once, so I will make 5 or so tail sections and then attach them on hooks. That way I'm not waiting too long for just one fly to dry. Anyway, when the glue has dried, start your thread again behind the eye of the hook and bring your thread down the hook shank, ending just shy of the wire loop. Tie in the chenille and bring your thread up to the eye of the hook. Then make touching wraps with the chenille up the hook shank, stroking the fibers rearward with every wrap. It helps to tighten your chenille every few wraps to ensure it is wrapped on very tight at the hook shank. This will help with durability of your fly and getting a dense and clean body. Once you reach the eye, then capture the chenille as you've done before on the shanks. Pull everything rearward, wrap over the head section, clip off the chenille waist, and then whip finish your fly. The fly doesn't look like much right now. We will need to trim it. To do so, make sure you get some very sharp scissors like these razor scissors from Risen Fly. I like to start at the tail on the underside of the fly. Stroke the fibers forward. Make an angle cut from the tail up to the hook point like so. And be careful not to cut the chickaboo tail when doing this. Then turn the fly over and make another angle cut on top. Then on the sides as well. This will leave you with a rough baitfish shape, but we'll need to refine this. Cutting this material from front to rear though is tough. It wants to move out of your way. So pinch the head like so, and then draw the fibers forward. Then make an angle cut from the hook eye up the back of the fly. Make sure it's a steep angle though, as you want some bulk at the head. Then round off the back and the squared sides with small cuts. Now I'll do the same thing with the underbelly of the fly. Make an angle cut from the hook eye to the point of the hook, like so. The hook does get in the way of this, so you will have to cut on either side of the hook, sometimes pulling the fibers forward aggressively to get under the hook point there. Now I like to thin out the sides to make more of a baitfish shape. I find setting the fly on the table and cutting it this way helps to do this. Cut the sides of the fly deeper than the top and bottom. Also make sure you thin out the sides of the tail as well. But be careful and make multiple small cuts instead of one big cut. You can always trim more off, but you can't put more back on. So keep checking it as you go to see where you want to cut. Turn the fly over and do the same thing on the other side. Keep checking the fly to make it nice, even, and oval looking on the front. Keep trimming small sections until you're happy with the shape. Here we're not going for a perfect final shape, just a rough baitfish shape. This looks about good. Now with trimming, you end up with chenille particles all over the fly, which makes the next process difficult. So I run these underwater, cleaning off the chenille dust. Then I put them on a towel and press hard to pull out the majority of the water like so. Then set them aside and let them dry for a couple hours before proceeding to coloring the flies. To color these flies, I like using these Shark Pack ad markers. They're waterproof when dry and come in some nice colors. For this bluegill coloration, I will use olive, lemon yellow, cadmium, orange, I'm not sure I pronounced that right, aquamarine, and super black. You could also use colored Sharpies here if you don't want to buy the more expensive Shark Packs. I will link to where you can buy both in the description section. Start with the olive. Hold the tail and color the back of the fly, going forward and rearward with strokes to get the color in deep. I like the entire top half of the fly colored olive. Make sure the far side of the fly is also colored as well. Also color the top of the thread wraps on the head of the fly. Now I make a yellow chest on the fly, leaving a small space between the olive. Then I take the orange and just lightly color the back of the yellow chest. Then I just use my fingers to blend the orange and yellow together. Now for the blue gill. Make a line of aquamarine color between the yellow chest and the olive back on both sides. Bluegill and many other sunfish have a black dot just behind their gill, so I add that with the point of the black marker on both sides. Then to darken up the head just slightly, I lightly brush the black on top and work it in with my fingers. Now let this dry before proceeding to the next step. To attach the eyes, I like cutting out a small area of material at the head of the fly. This will give a place for the eyes to rest and adhere to with superglue. Use a sharp, fine-tipped scissor to do this. The fibers will get all over the place, and because of the marker, it will stick to the other fibers. Use a comb to clean out the fibers off the head of the fly. Trim more if you need, and then try to make the head section look clean, even trimming off some of the top and bottom if there are any errant fibers there. To attach the eyes, I like gel superglue. It gives you a little longer time to set, and I find it seems to hold them better than regular superglue. For eyes, Fishgo makes these living eyes in many different colors, and they're very realistic looking. I use 6mm for this size fly, and you can get them in wind, which is a brownish color, ice, silver color, earth, a greenish color, and fire, a reddish color. I find the wind is the closest color to a bluegill eye, so I take 2 of them and put them on my hand and get ready to attach. Place a drop of gel superglue on each side of the fly where you cut out the fibers. Then place the eyes on. Make sure each eye is even from each other, as this could affect how the fly tracks when stripped in the water. Let the glue dry, then come in with fine scissors and trim out any errant fibers between the eyes on top and bottom. Then angle your fly upward like so. Here is Solarez's thin formula, in which I have a special fine metal applicator on it which you can get from their website. Add a drop between the eyes on top, making sure it is just enough to bulge over the eyes slightly. Also make sure it is slightly over the front of the eyes on either side like so. Don't get any in the eye of the hook, then cure it in. Do the same thing with the bottom space between the eyes. Now for one final thing, I like taking the ultra thin resin and painting it over the eyes like so, curing it in and repeating to make 2 coats. This will ensure that the eyes do not come off easily, even with aggressive takes from fish. It also gives a very nice head on the fly and makes it look more finished. Now for the final trimming. The trap fibers pull out slightly when using the markers, so let's trim this more to shape, refining the final look of the fly. Again, go slowly, make sure you aren't over trimming. Check how the tail moves. If it's not moving much, it is because the fibers are too dense on the sides, holding the tail sections in place. So go through and trim some of these fibers like so. Go down each tail section, checking for longer fibers. The more you trim this, the looser the movement of the tail. Don't overdo it though, as the tail will move more freely under the water. Well, there you go. You can see how this fly shape resembles a small bluegill, narrow and tall. It also is colored just like one as well. The fly is great for stubborn bass or any predatory fish that might be shy to bite. It really does trick even the most weary fish. So I get most of my materials from Dooley's Fly Fishing. I will put a link in the description section where you can check out their website. They are also offering 15% off to all my subscribers, so type in the code McFly15 when you check out. I just got this new fly tester, so I'm able to show you how this fly moves underwater. Unfortunately, this is the first time I used it, and I didn't adjust the flow. It's way too much for this little fly, but you can see just how great this moves. Well, thanks for watching. All the materials I use today will be listed in the description section of this video. I do sell flies, so if you're looking to purchase some of these or any other fly from me, just let me know what you want. I tie to order, and the best place to make an order is to find me on Instagram and send me a private message there. If you don't have Instagram, you can find my email in the About section of my YouTube homepage, and just send me an email with your order. I will get you prices there, and you do not pay until I complete the order and send you photos to approve. So if you like this video, please subscribe and hit that bell notification. Also help me out and hit that like button as well. I will see you on the next video. Now you go catch some fish.